So this video is going to show you how to make traditional English fish chips and mushy peas. The fish will be beer battered and that will be cod. I'm using cod loin. Traditionally you would use cod fillets, but I couldn't get fillets today, so we're using cod loin. And for the potatoes, I'm using russet potatoes, but traditionally there would be a Mary Piper potatoes, but russets work fine. So any sort of waxy potato that you can get from your supermarket are fine. And we're also going to be making traditional mushy peas. I'm going to be using quick soak mushy peas. You can use peas from a tin or a can, but I'm going to show you how to do the soaking method. And yeah, these as you can see, they look pretty good. They taste fantastic, and it's really not difficult to make traditional English style fish chips and mushy peas anywhere in the world. So when you're making beer batter fish and chips, one of the most important things is the beer batter, and it really is quite simple to make. You need 2 tablespoons of plain flour. You need a half a teaspoon of baking powder. That's baking powder, not baking soda. You need some salt and pepper, and the key ingredients obviously is some beer. And what type of beer do you need? Well, you could use any beer really. But you want something that's got some real depth of flavour to it. So something like a pilsner or a lager is not really going to cut it. So I've got some Timothy Taylor's Landlord here, which is impossible to get in the US. This is a special import. But you can get things like Boddington's in the US, which is brewed in Britain. You could use Newcastle Brown, but that's not brewed in Britain anymore. I think that's brewed in Canada somewhere. So it's not really a true ale. But if you go to your local store, you could get something like some Spitfire or Speckled Hen. That would work excellent. In the UK, Black Sheep is a popular beer to use. But really any strong real ale, some strong bitter, what you need. You could use Guinness if you were really pushed, but that's really going to make your batter dark to start with. So I would stick to something like a Boddington's or a Speckled Hen. Once you've assembled your ingredients, it really is just a matter of mixing them all together. So it's 2 tablespoons of flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then you add your beer and you whisk it gently. You want to try and leave some of the bubbles in there. That's going to make the batter light, but it's not possible to leave all the bubbles in there, as you'll see. But you mix it until you get a consistency of, I would say, thick cream. So once you've got your batter looking like sort of the consistency of thick cream, any beer that's left you can finish yourself, and then you just put that to one side. No need to put it into the fridge, it can stay out on the side. So we're going to coat our fish in flour before we batter it, and this is cod loin. You can use cod loin. Cod fillet is more traditional, I would say, but we're at the mercy of the supermarket and we couldn't get any cod fillet today, so cod loin it is. So the idea here is we're just going to coat this in. On here we've got flour, a little bit of salt and pepper, and we just want to coat the fish in flour just to dry it out, and that helps the batter stick to it before we put it into the fryer. So you might need to do this a couple of times, leave it for a few minutes. I generally put this back in the fridge because I find cold fish is easier to work with. If you let your fish get too warm, it'll start to fall to pieces. So to go with your fish and chips, we're going to make some mushy peas. There are two options available to you. You can get a pre-made tin of mushy peas like this. This is like heating up a tin of beans. You literally just empty it into a pan and heat it up until the simmering and the warm. The better option, but the more difficult option, not difficult but trickier option, is to go with the dried peas that required soaking. These are a quick soak variety. You can get some that are not quick soak. They take around 8 hours to soak, but you can get these quick soak ones. Now you can get the cans of mushy peas in the US, but it's hit and miss. So you may have to go on Amazon or a UK supplying store, and that's where I get these from. So we have to buy them online, and the delivery is expensive, so you have to buy other things as well. But yeah, so you get these, and inside the box you get this, which are dried peas and a soaking tablet. And literally, all you do is you add your soaking tablet and you add your boiling water. The instructions are on the back. I tend to do half a packet at a time rather than a full packet. So I think it's 425 millilitres of boiling water for a couple of hours. So that's the way we make the quick soak mushy peas. That's probably about right. I would say that is, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch, you know, 1 centimetre maybe. And then you want to put them in some cold water, rinse them, and then leave them covered in cold water. You don't want to leave them out on the side. And before we put them into the fryer, we're going to dry those off. But for now, they can stay in the cold water. So now we're moving on to the, I guess the most important part. We're actually going to cook our fish and chips. And I'm going to be using an electric fryer. If you've not got an electric fryer, you can use a large pan and use your oil in there. If you are going to use it over a naked flame, you've got to be extra careful, because we are going to be heating this oil to around about 350 Fahrenheit. So you do need to be very, very careful when you're using oil over a naked flame. I am using lard in my fryer. It's entirely up to you. This is the traditional fat that would have been used in fish and chip shops in England. But you can use vegetable oil if you wish. It's entirely your preference. So we take our soaked peas and we add them to 210 millilitres of water, and then we put them onto the hob, and we're going to bring those gently to the boil, and then we're going to simmer them. You have to watch the peas like a hawk, otherwise they will boil over, they will dry out, and they will burn to the bottom of the pan. That's why the pre-prepared peas are a little bit easier, but these do taste better, so they are worth the extra effort. So when your fat is up to temperature, I've got my lard at 350 Fahrenheit, which is about 180 centigrade. I think if you use vegetable oil, you have it a little bit hotter than that, but for lard, 350 is optimum, I think. And then you get your chips and you dry them out. So these have been soaked in and just rested in water to keep them fresh. And then before you put them into the chip pan, you dry them out. And over into your basket. So when you see the chips starting to float to the top, that means they're losing a lot of their water and they're starting to be cooked. So I lift them out and just leave them for 2 or 3 minutes and then put them back in. So the chips are golden brown, they're going to the oven. Next up is the fish. Okay, so we've got our batter. As I say, it's about the consistency of a thick cream. We've got our fish which we've coated in flour, and then you simply make sure it's well coated in the, and carefully drop it into your oil or your lard. Just making sure that the fish is not stuck to the wire basket, making sure it's free, and we'll turn that over in a few minutes. So after 2 or 3 minutes each side, your fish should be golden and brown like that, and they can join their friends the chips in the oven. Because we're not done frying yet, we're going to make some scraps. So scraps are all the bits of batter that were left in the fryer at the chip shop, and you used to go down and ask for fish and chips, and you used to ask for scraps. So because we're not a big chip shop, we don't get many scraps, so we make our own. So we just literally drop a little bit of the batter in 2 or 3 minutes, they'll be ready.